he's embodying this moral model for everybody to imitate. And insofar as we think Socrates is a wise person, insofar as we think that he's a sage who we perhaps might want to model our behavior after, then we might say, okay, well, his steadfast adherence to virtue, despite the cost of his own life, is something that's perhaps admirable, and is something perhaps we want to emulate as well. And that will have no effect if he survives and doesn't die in this instance. If he survives and lives a vicious life, as you pointed out earlier, it's better to die and die virtuously rather than to live viciously. I think this is what we were trying to say, right? And in some sense, this whole passage, I think, is kind of validating that proposition.
Yeah, that's definitely what I was getting from it too, as you were reading it, was that it works in the third proposition we went over, or sorry, second one, works into this third one quite nicely. And yeah, like correct me if I'm wrong, when he's confronted with these charges, he pleads guilty. It's not like he sheepishly shies away from it and says, oh no, I wasn't really doing that, like I was just saying this, and they took it out of context, like please don't hurt me kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's just honest. He says what he believes, and he's ready to take on the consequences for what he believes. So I think that is what makes this in part like a good thing to die for, makes it a good death. It's kind of funny to think about too, because like if you think of the wicked person, like what happens when they die, like it's almost like you want to say the opposite, where it was like, oh, it was a bad thing that they died wicked. They could have died, as a good person. Usually when we think of wicked people dying, we're like, thank God that dude's dead.
Yep.
But in some way it kind of reverses it a little bit.
Yeah, in some sense, right? Especially if that person who's dying, in some sense, was a person, with contradictions. Perhaps they manifested some virtuous aspect, but they also manifested these vicious aspects, and in the end, it was their own vice that was their downfall, that brought about their death. And at their kind of have a sort of empathy for that person or literary figure or a character, because we could see that they were capable of being virtuous, but they weren't. And so we kind of think, well, in situations such as that, if the person, towards the final moments of their life, if they do at least one virtuous act, it's almost like they redeem themselves, right? And you can think of certain maybe literary characters and even real life characters who've done things like that. And it does seem to die virtuously in that sense, does seem to be able to redeem a vicious person of their actions.
Reminds me of what we went over with Scrooge.
Yes, Scrooge. Yeah, Scrooge. Or I can think of Edmund in Shakespeare's King Lear, who sentences Lear and Cordelia to death, and then at the last, he's like, "Quickly tell the executioner to stop. I've given orders for them to be executed." And then it's too late, of course, at the end, right? Like Cordelia's dead, and Lear's there holding her in his arms, and it's tragic, but there's some redeeming moments there, with Edmund's character. And even Edmund says, and I might not be quoting this perfectly, but he says something like, some good I mean to do despite my nature. And so, I think there's within every human being maybe an ability to transcend their nature, their vicious nature, for the sake of maybe their higher nature, their virtuous nature.
We
So
we get that with Darth Vader as well.
yes, Darth, exactly. Yeah,